All right, friends. We were learning Psalm 23. I'm going to remind people about Psalm 23. I know it's been a few weeks. There were different things that happened. I was away. And then last week, there was the International Beit Din, which works on freeing women who are in chained marriages. So those last two Wednesdays, I was not available. Going to remind everybody what Psalm 23. I don't even know if we ever sang the tune. That's the most iconic tune. Remember this one? Mizmor David, Hashem roi lo echsar, B'hinot asher yarbitzeni, Amei menuchot yanaleni, Nafshi yeshovev, Nafshi yeshovev, Yancheni b'maglei tzedek le'man shemo. Are people familiar with that?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, but
It's familiar, but I never sang it.
You never sang it. So it is a tune.
Oh,
Did you want to
I
say
know
something?
I know the melody, but I never understood.
You didn't know that it was
that
to
the
these words.
But I know the
This-
words to the psalm
Yep.
from all the
yep.
funerals I've
And
attended.
you did right, exactly. But they don't usually sing it at funerals. This
No.
tune was by Ben Sion Shanker.
Oh, yes. Eshet Hayel, yes.
In my synagogue,
Yeah.
He the famous tune.
He also wrote that one.
composed
That
it,
makes sense.
yes.
That makes sense. Yeah, he's a big, yeah. Yeah, what did you want to say, Lance?
in my synagogue, we chanted every Seudah Shlishit on Shabbat.
Seudah Shlishit. When
At
you
Seudah
say you
Shlishit.
chant it, does that mean you sing it?
Yeah.
Mm.
Just like you did. Same melody.
Yeah, it's very common at that time.
Right, but you didn't know it was to Psalm 23.
Oh, I
Now
didn't
you know. So in HIR, actually, we have a shiur between Mincha Marav every Shabbat. For those who are here, you're always welcome. It's always interesting. I'm talking about on Shabbat day. And as we get settled after Mincha, we sing this song. So it kind of brings us into the feeling, as many people here have already said, oh, it reminds me of Seudah Shlishit, which is an interesting thing to talk about in and of itself. Why is it that we sing it at Seudah Shlishit? I think we started talking about that.
Right,
But-
because Moses and David were supposedly died on Shabbat afternoon, right?
Why is that? And therefore, well, how does that connect to this particular Mizmor, though, Lance?
Because it's funerary.
Because the actual Mizmor is funerary.
Well,
the-
Psalm
the
23 is
words?
associated with funerals, right?
So I don't know if you were here when we first started talking about it. We said it didn't used to be that actually was a Christian infusion.
The funerary was Christian.
Oh, yes,
Well,
I remember that.
In Shamokin, Pennsylvania, there's a hospital in which Psalm 23 is on an entire wall
Right,
in English.
right. So I'm just saying that your theory that the reason we sing it at Seudah Shlishit is because two of our greatest leaders died on Shabbat, and it's funerary, which I never heard that word before, that doesn't go along with each other, actually. Because it never was meant for funerals and a Jewish tradition. So that's
Okay, but
interesting,
it's-
right? But it
Psalm 20
intertwines in your head.
Psalm 23, unlike the rest of the Psalms, is universal.
No,
right?
I'm
In
not
other words-
disagreeing with, first of all, they're all universal. I mean, anybody can use any psalm they want. But what I'm saying is that your theory doesn't hold up. That's all. The
Well,
theory
I think
that's
the
the
reason,
reason.
Robin Yisroel, the reason that we say Psalm 23 is because it's comforting.
But why do it at Seudah Shlishit? I guess that's the part. So let's,
Well,
yeah.
the only possibility I know is because of what is it? Tzidkach Sedek, we say.
Yeah, we do.
And
Yep.
that's because of Moses and David, right?
Yeah, I just don't know why we say Psalm 23. That's my question. So Yeah, so let's think about that. It's
Oh, no.
interesting that you say it's comforting. If you're saying it's comforting, then it would be maybe more appropriate to sing it after Shabbat, when many of us have that feeling of Shabbat ebbing away, and then you might need comfort. So that's an interesting idea as well. I'm not sure when it did. I've been looking it up. What's the reason that it's sung at Sudash Lishit? I mean, it seems so appropriate, but what came first, the chicken or the egg, you know? Was it first that it was comforting, or is it because we know that we sing it at Sudash Lishit, that it feels appropriate for Sudash Lishit? However, it does say Mizmor LeDavid. So it is a psalm by or for David. So that at least goes along with what you said, Lance. There are other psalms that has David's name in the title. Remember, we said the first two words are the title usually. But it's true that David HaMelech died on Shabbat, so it makes sense that we might take a psalm that has David's name and just use it on Shabbat. But it's not part of our liturgy. Can we remember that? So the rabbis didn't make it part, like instead of Tzidkat Chatzedek, which is said at Mincha, we could have said Psalm 23. Now remember, we said Psalm 23 is read by the Sephardic community at Kiddush. People remember that? Maybe that goes along. It's not 100% clear, but we've been learning different allegories about, what's embedded within this one. And I think the one that was very powerful to me, one second, I just want to remember which one it was. Oh, when somebody said, no, not there.
Rabbi Bracha.
Just one second. I think what we said was even that for the people, going back to the connection to funerals, so somebody on this, I don't know if it was somebody who's here today, said something that felt to me very, very powerful. Gam ke'elech begates an mavet. So in English here, in this book, it's translated. Who has the translation for verse 4? Does anybody have a translation you can read? You have one, Phyllis?
Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me.
Right. Yeah, go on. Sorry, continue. Yep.
Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me.
Great. So that's a great translation. It's actually a little bit better than the translation. Hi, Felice. I didn't say hello to everybody. Hi, Carol, Felice, Phyllis, Robert, Moshe, Elaine, Lance, and Judy. And of course, Ruby, who's here in person. Just one second, Lance. We'll get to you. So in the word salmavet could be two words. Tsel, which means shadow, and mavet, which means death. So they translated salmavet as the darkest valley. That's in this particular translation, because I guess the shadow of death feels like the darkest valley. But somebody here, Elaine, was it you, who said it makes sense that it's for a funeral because the people who have lost somebody close to them feel the shadow of death. Like they themselves haven't died, the people at the funeral, I mean, other than the person who passed away, but they're feeling the shadow of what death can feel like. And I thought that was really powerful and really spoke to me and I hadn't read that anywhere, so I thought that was just very, very insightful and beautiful. And it's something for us to think about. If somebody reads that at a funeral, we can appreciate how the people especially the people in the immediate family who are the mourners, but it actually could be anybody in the room who came, to give honor to the person who passed away. So how do we find comfort when we feel the tsel, the shadow of death, right? That's so beautiful. The shadow of death has it's almost as if something has passed over the sun like a cloud and made it dimmer because somebody died. So that would be the shadow that's cast by death. I thought that was just a very beautiful way of understanding it. Lance, what did you want to say?
Okay, number one, my understanding is that after Shabbat, you need to know that God is going to comfort you during the week and take care of you during the week. And the other side of the coin is after you die, you need to know that you're going to live in a house of God forever. And God is going to take care of you even after you die.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think this prayer is so powerful.
Yeah, I agree. I just wonder that if it's about Shabbat passing, why don't we say it after Shabbat? Why do we say it at Sudah Shlishit, in your
Because
opinion?
we're going out from
Because we're going
Shabbat.
out. So this is something to take with us to comfort us as we
Right.
leave Shabbat. Very nice.
Right.
And actually,
what I
let's
would
be honest, people usually gather more for Sudah Shlishit than after Shabbat when you're quickly rushing, to wash the dishes and clean your home from Shabbat. So the time
You
to
have to say
gather
Maariv.
is on Shabbat. Well, it's before
You say
Maariv.
Maariv after Sudah Shlishit right
Correct.
away.
Yeah, correct.
Then you can go clean the dishes.
Yeah, obviously. I skipped over the Maariv. That was obvious to me, but I didn't say it. But you're right. What I meant was after Shabbat, after you daven Maariv and said Baruch HaMavdil and said Havdalah, then you're going to be busy and you're probably not going to sit around singing Mizmor LeDavid because you have stuff to
You
do.
have to say Atach and Antanu too also.
Right, okay,
Because
we're
there's a
not getting,
verse.
no, sorry, that's off topic. We're talking about Psalm 23. You got into what we say in Maariv. I think that's
Okay.
off topic. So that's true what you said, it's just not relevant. Okay. So I think we actually got up to verse 4, and that's what I remember. If anybody remembers differently, I know it's been quite a few weeks. But I think that's where we got up to because we started talking about it. So I do want to think with you, what is it that will comfort me? I mean, lo irarai, I will not fear evil, whatever evil means, because you are with me, so you meaning God. But I just, shiftecha umishantecha hema yenachamuni. So shevet is one way of saying tribe, we know that, shvatim, but it also means your staff or your rod. Not 100% sure why it means the same thing. I don't know if there's a connection between the two. I mean, I'm sure there is a connection, I just don't know it. Mishantecha is what you lean on, your staff. So I just want you to go back to the allegory of a shepherd. Remember, it said Hashem ro'i, God is my shepherd. Does that tap in for people to your rod and your staff? Any thoughts about that?
Doesn't a shepherd take a staff when he's walking?
Okay, so say more.
So it's just that very pastoral picture of seeing the shepherd walking through the pasture
Uh-huh.
with his staff.
Okay, so you're saying because it symbolizes, it's symbolic of a shepherd, or I don't know, there's a word, but I can't think of the word, that it's like part and parcel of a picture of a shepherd,
Right,
and therefore remind us that God is our shepherd.
right.
I just wonder, because what is the staff used by a shepherd? How is it used?
Does he kind of guide and almost like beat a little bit the sheep to keep them in the straight path?
I think so. Yeah.
What were you going to say, Ruby? Balance? Oh, that's the what he uses to walk. But how does he use it as a shepherd? I agree. I think a shepherd uses it to climb, right? To climb on the rocky terrain. Yeah.
Well, even to watch the sheep, you have to have balance, you have to know, you're not gonna be tottering all over the place.
So you need balance even when you're watching. Okay. So that feels like somebody who's stable, who you can rely on. I hear that. Beautiful. Elaine, you wanted to say something?
No, I just thought it was to round up the sheep also.
I think that's that as well. I think it's all of that, actually. Yeah, also to round up the sheep. So I want to keep that in our minds. Lance, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I think that God enables us to function in the everyday world. In other words, it's better to have God enabling us than for us to just try to function on our own. God
What do you
enables
mean?
Bezalel.
What do you mean enable? Can you explain that?
Okay, God enables Joseph to interpret dreams. God enables Bezalel to design the Mishkan.
Yeah,
It says specifically in the Torah.
yeah.
And if, pardon me for bringing this up, but atachan and tanu, there's a word that's incorrect. Tavdil.
Whoa. What does this have to
No,
do
but
with?
it's important. It's important, Rabbi Bracha, because the Tavdilenu means that God enables us to see right from wrong, see darkness from light. That's what it says. Because in Havdalah, it says that God makes right from wrong. God makes darkness from light. But in Atochen and Tanu, it means that God enables us. God shepherds us. And in doing that, God makes the little sheep go in the right direction.
What are you saying no,
I
Ruby?
say that when you get comfort, you may not even know what the right and wrong is.
Wait, say that again, 1 second. Ruby has a
When you-
different
When
trend.
you
Yeah.
get comfort, you may not even know at that point what right and wrong is.
What do you mean right and wrong? No, so say more about that.
You're on your car, they comfort, you're on, you say, they comfort me.
Yeah.
I haven't quite figured out right and wrong, or I'm still in the process of doing that.
Okay.
I have another thought.
Okay. Yeah.
Another thought on
Yeah.
another thought as Hashem being the shepherd guiding the flock, bringing all of Am Yisrael together, just like bringing the sheep together, bringing Am Yisrael together makes me comforted to know that I'm together with my fellow Jew.
Yes, and that would go along with the picture of the rod, not the staff that he uses to lean on, but
No.
that's the one he uses to kind of gather the herd.
Right.
That's very beautiful. Okay, great. So all different ways that this brings up for people. But definitely, it seems to connect to the shepherd, I think. That's what I've discovered, and that's what makes sense to me. Hashem ro'i, God is my shepherd, and then this is an additional connection. Okay. 1 second. So, I didn't like that commentary, so I'm not going to bring it. About striking the sheep. I just really wasn't, I found that, does anybody find that comforting that when a shepherd strikes the sheep, that would be? Because that's the first go-to when you think of somebody having a rod, like it's, so I just want to throw out an idea and see how this, could it be that something that is generally thought of as used as something for that's discipline, that's used to discipline, and we're saying, no, it actually comforts me. Any thoughts about that? That was something that I found interesting.
It's like positive parenting involves discipline as well as love. So, and the child, sometimes acts out in order to get the disciplining of
Or like tough love, like
Right.
that kind of thing?
right.
Yeah, nice. Okay, any other thoughts? Because I found that it felt to me a little contradictory to have the rod and the staff comfort me. Not so clear. I didn't find a completely compelling answer to that. That's why I was discussing that with you. But I think the idea of guiding, yeah, Phyllis. Wait, hold on 1 second. Somebody has a phone call and it's a little disruptive. 1 minute. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, Phyllis.
I was, my notes refer to the rod as a protection of the sheep because it's driving away beasts or anything else that might.
Nice.
And I kind of like that idea
Yep.
that protection for whatever's in, what they're taking care of. And in this-
Yes. So not hitting the sheep, so guiding the sheep, balance, and then protecting. I think we spoke about that before. That that the shepherd is the protector for the sheep.
Right.
So that, yeah, beautiful, beautiful.
keeping them together and keeping them away from harm.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right, so the
Bracha?
rod is, yeah, 1 second. I don't even know if a shepherd ever beats the flock. Does that happen? I don't think so. No, I am reminded, which we did speak about the God, remember, that's in Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur liturgy, that God is our shepherd and counts us like sheep.
Right.
And that has many different explanations about how, but the idea being that you have to do each one separately, that each one of us is in God's eyes, we're a whole world, and God, they literally, the sheep go through like, I guess when they're counted or when they're branded maybe, I'm not sure, but they each go through by themselves. So that's another way of understanding it. Yeah, Lance.
In the Hebrew, I like to know the roots first of all, but
Yeah.
it's shin shin and ha ha, and
I'm
those
sorry,
are
what is it? Shin,
shin
shin,
shin.
ha, ha.
In other words, shivtecha umishantecha, right?
Well, the cha is you. That's not part of the root. It means shevet shelcha, your rod. Mishantecha is mishenet shelcha, your. It's just a contraction of your. So the chaf doesn't have to do with the root.
Well, isn't it saying that it's God's, it belongs to God?
Well,
The-
your. I mean, it's your. Y-O-U-R.
Right.
Your shevet, your
No, my
mishenet.
question is, in other words, Rav Avi talks about words buried in Hebrew words, and I'm curious to know if the roots are connected in any way between the two words.
It's shin bet tet and shin ayin nun. I don't think so. Lihisha, just the shin is the same, but lihisha'en means to lean on something, and shevet is a staff or your tribe. That's what it means. I don't think they're connected. Shiftecha is the contraction, so you can't put the chaf in there.
Okay, but shin is a symbol of God, right?
I mean, it's, yeah, I mean, it is on,
There's a shin in a menorah.
no, there
There's
isn't. There's a
no.
shin on your tefillin.
There's a
Only
shin
if you
with
happen
the
on the
kohanim.
mezuzah, maybe. On the
Shin with the
mezuzah, there's a
kohanim.
shin. There's a shin with the kohanim, correct, just not on a menorah. But there's one on the mezuzah, you know, that we put on the wall. There you usually put a shin. So yeah, that could be God's name. That's nice. So you're saying hidden within shivtecha umish antecha is shin, which is like, it sounds good to the ear, alliteration.
Oh.
And it also shin represents God. Beautiful, beautiful. Judy.
One last thought. I can't help but think about the word Yenachamune. It kind of echoes of the saying what we greet people who are sitting Shiva. Yenachem Otchem B'tok Sha'ar V'Yetzilim Yerushalayim. So I just couldn't help but make that connection.
Ooh,
That's really nice. Yeah. It's hamakom yenachem etchem, not otchem. There's, yeah.
Thanks.
Hamakom, are people familiar with that? That's what we say to mourners.
Yeah.
Hamakom meaning God or other interpretations. Yenachem, it should comfort. Wow. Oh, beautiful. So that connects it right back to a funeral.
Right. That's for Lancet's funeral.
Beautiful, beautiful.
how about
beautiful.
Nachamu?
Well, that's Shabbat Nachamu. That doesn't have to do
Oh,
with,
that's the
yeah,
day
Shabbat
after.
Nachamu.
Was that day after Tisha B'av, right?
Right,
Oh,
Shabbat Nachamu is the Shabbat after Tisha B'av, not the day
Right.
after. The Shabbat after
Shabbat, right?
Tisha B'av.
Shabbat after
Yeah,
Tisha
Shabbat
B'av,
Nachamu. But
right? But
mean-
that's comforting us after some kind of tragedy.
nice, nice, nice. Yeah, that's the Haftorah that we read from Yeshayahu, Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, and it's called Shabbat
Right.
Nachamu.
Right.
Wonderful. This is a very rich pasuk. Really has so much, especially if we use whoever it was who gave us that interpretation. Even though I, meaning the mourner, even though I'm walking and feeling the shadow of death because I just lost someone, I will be comforted, which a mourner needs is comforting, that God is protecting me, God is keeping away enemies, that God is with me. That really feels tightly bound to a loss, to a funeral.
Also,
Very
Rabbi
nice.
Bracha,
Yeah.
it's that I, as not a mourner, comfort the mourners among us.
Well, yes,
So,
except
in
this
effect,
is talking
I'm
about
functioning.
God. Who is
I'm
I?
representing God.
Who is you when you say I?
When I go to a shiva house,
Yeah.
right, to comfort.
Oh, you say the
mourners.
words hamakom. Okay.
Hamakom is God's place.
Okay. Hamakom means God because God doesn't have a physical place.
It's the bayit.
Yeah, it's HIR, obviously. Okay. Let's continue, and then I have something, in Hebrew, it's called the levels of Maslow's it's hierarchy of needs. People familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Okay.
Okay,
I
so
think
we're
so.
gonna,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
so we'll go over that and we'll go over that. Okay, let's go to Pasuk 5. Let's continue. Ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged sorerai. Wait, we didn't even sing the whole thing, man. Mechamoni. Gam ki elech. That's verse 4. Begei tzal mavet.
Yay.
O irara. Ki ata imadi. Shiftecha. ומשענתך, שבטך ומשענתך, המה ינחמוני. Familiar? People familiar? The word sounding familiar? תערוך לפני שולחן, תערוך לפני שולחן, תערוך לפני שולחן, נגד צורריי. Okay, so let's continue. Ta'aroch, this to me, it's such a short mizmor, but it seems to have so many different themes in it. Ta'aroch lefanai shulchan, you spread out a table before me. So before I go into it, I'd like to hear people's thoughts. Neged sororai is who has a translation? My translation says, in full view of my enemies, which makes sense because neged means opposite them, meaning they can see it. What do you have as a translation, Ruby?
I just wondered why it's in there at all. You spread a table for me would be sufficient. Why in full view of your enemies?
So Ruby asks, why in full view of your enemies you spread a table? That's a great question. Why not just you spread a table
Right,
of food?
right. Why there? Why does it have to be?
It's like showing bounty, or I'm not worried, I can eat. No, that's a really interesting question.
To show your power, that you're not afraid of your
Show
enemy.
your power, that you're not afraid. Okay. Yep. Yeah, I think this is it's like
Why not friends and enemies?
enigmatic.
Why not friends?
Oh, why not friends? Yeah, and enemies. Well, maybe assuming you're with friends, possibly Judy.
The comment about Ta'aroch lefanai shulchan fits right in with the Sudah Shlishit.
That's true. Although it doesn't fit in, that is very nice, but it doesn't really fit in with before my enemies. Like
No,
usually we don't have Sudah Shlishit in front of our enemies.
Right.
It can also mean, in my translation, it's in front of, and it can also mean
Right.
military help.
You two that be doing that?
Yeah, Ruby's saying, isn't it kind of scary for you to be eating right in front? I mean, my mind is exactly going to Israel and thinking, what, somebody just goes up to the border with Gaza and puts out a full table? So it must be a little more esoteric, right? It's not exactly right. So it might be symbolizing, as Carol said, that you said showing power or showing that you're not scared, maybe? Taruch lefanai shulchan. Any other thoughts? Phyllis, yeah.
In my translation, it's the idea that you, as the host, you're showing that you're going to protect your guests.
Oh.
That the protection would be there.
I mean, it is metaphorical, right? We're not saying that God really sets a table. It doesn't go like Bewitched, zoop, and just sets the table, right? That doesn't actually happen. So yes, so that's a metaphorical way of showing that. Good. Any other thoughts I wanted to add? First of all, I wanted to look at what Gaia, remember we had her once, so does she speak about that? Your bounty sustains me. That's what she wrote in her poem that translates it. I drink my fill, my thirst is quenched. And I, empowered by your master plan, can face whatever comes my way. I thought that was beautiful. So that goes along. So Rabbi Dalia Marks, who was actually right here in Riverdale. Oh, Ruby, want to add something? Yeah.
If you're spreading a table, you're spreading it for enjoyment. But in front of my enemies, it's sort of taking away from that enjoyment. So enjoy, but
Right,
Not
so I'm not
completely.
disagreeing with you, Ruby. I think we're trying to make sense. So you're saying this is kind of an uneasy table.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel quite right. Yep, I hear that. Maybe it means that not in front of, but maybe not physically in front of them, but even when I am beset by enemies, I feel comforted that God will give me what I need, perhaps, or that God is my comforter. So Rabbi Dalia Marks, who, as I said, was here in Riverdale, I went to hear her she was a scholar in residence at the Conservative Synagogue. So Martin, my husband, and I went after shul, well, in the kind of, right after shul. So, because they davened earlier, and we went to hear her. It was really beautiful. I don't have it with me, but she collects liturgy and ritual. She's an amazing speaker and researcher and a collector and holder speaks beautifully in Hebrew and in English. And she brought liturgical poems that were written after October 7th. That's what she spoke about, at least at night. I wasn't able to hear her during the day. But she wrote she wrote about Psalm 23, and she compared it to Maslow's pyramid. And according to anybody here familiar with that, with what it is, you're familiar with it? According to his pyramid, you can only attend. So he says the first thing you need is, first of all, this is what it looks like. So the first thing you need is your basic physiological needs fulfilled. What are they? Food, water, warmth, and rest. And do we see that not obviously King David didn't know Maslow, but that it fits with it. So do we see that, do we see themes of that in the liturgy, in the psalm, food, water, warmth, and rest? So if we look inside, food, water, so we have the food is setting a table. Water is almei menuchot, that God, this is in verse 2, that God leads me beside still or calm waters, right? So that's water where sheep would drink in that case. And then warmth and rest. So rest is, it's mei menuchot is calm, so that's like rest. And nafshi yeshovev, that God restores my soul, so that feels like it's offering rest. And also the fact that I will not be afraid. Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
and it
Carol.
makes me lie down in green pastures when you
Oh,
walk
right, that's
down,
right. Yep.
You rest.
Yeah, green pastures certainly feels like a restful. Yep, go on. Yeah, Lance.
Okay, if you use the word obstacle for shulchan, it makes good sense, right? In
If
other
you
words, you're
use the
putting
word
obstacles in
obstacle.
front of the enemy, a fence.
Oh, interesting.
And it even goes so far, I just looked it up online, that there's a Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, which talks about the fence. Shulchan, that's just a crazy connection, but nevertheless, the word obstacle, I think, makes sense
For shulchan.
for Shulchan, even
I mean, it
though
means
I don't
table,
think
but
you
yeah.
find it anywhere else.
Right. So you're saying maybe spreading out a table, meaning putting barriers between me. Interesting. Okay, thank you. So going on to warmth and rest. So we see that the first level of physiological needs, what happens after you have food and water and shelter, a place to rest? What's your next level of need? Would be security and safety. I mean, if you don't have food and water, you're not going to live at all. You need a place to rest. But now you need to be able to rest and eat in security and safety. And that, I think, very much comes up in here. For example, putting aside what you said, Lance, the idea that you can eat even though you have enemies. Everybody with me on that? So security and safety. So again, we're moving our way up this ladder, which I thought was just brilliant that she thought of that.
But isn't the connection between security and food right there in Maslow?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is his pyramid of needs, is the physiological, then safety. That's the way it's interpreted.
Right.
I didn't make this up. This is part of her.
Right.
This is just part of the way she did it. Okay. The next level, once your basic needs are met, then you can tend to your psychological needs. The next level, once you have that, once you're not worried, you have safety, you have security, once you have food and you have water and warmth and rest, right? Otherwise, if you're too cold, you can freeze to death or just get sick from it. What would be the next level? What do you need once your basic needs are tended to? What do you think is your next level? Any thoughts?
Maybe something emotional, Emotional
Something
connection.
emotional. Yep, Felice.
I make food, something to eat to give you
No,
strength.
that was the first level,
Oh, the first?
physiological. Food, water, warmth, and rest was the
Okay.
basic, the food, that was the physiological. That's the first thing you need. If you don't have food and water, you can't, you know.
But this should be, it should continue, not just,
No, I
stop at the
understand
first.
that, but the way
Yeah.
the pyramid works is that first you need to meet the bottom level, and then you
The
move up.
basic needs, okay. Yeah.
So now the inner needs or emotional needs. Yep. Any other way to say it? Any other thoughts, Carol?
Is not to be afraid, right?
No, that's the security.
That's security.
We did that already. We said security and safety. Right? So we said we did food, water, warmth, and rest, and security and safety. We're moving up the ladder, up the pyramid.
Oh, for somebody to care about you, only goodness and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. She called it here belongingness and love needs. So then you have intimate relationship and friends. I mean, people don't want to be alone, not completely alone. I mean, sometimes you might want to be alone. It's unusual to have a person who wants to be 24/7 alone for the rest of their lives, always alone. It means you need some relationship, some friendship, intimate, and that's a different kind of safety and security, that somebody loves you, that somebody cares about you. So that's the next level. Do we see that here in this Mizmor? Let's look for those. We're working our way up the pyramid.
Yeah, well, that's that verse, only goodness
Which
and
one?
love shall pursue me all the days of my life.
Oh, tov v'chesed, goodness and love. Beautiful. A love or, yeah, or kindness. Yep.
Right. So God will love us. That, it's pointing that God will love us.
Yeah. Well,
And
no, I'm not sure. I mean, I think yes, but maybe it's a general request from God that tov v'chesed could also be tov from people. It doesn't say you will give tov v'chesed, that you'll give me. It's in third person. May only goodness and love follow me all the days of my life. So it could be about God, and it also could be about relationships, I think. You don't think so, Carol? You think it's only
you're right. But I mean, it specifically says, I shall dwell in the house of the Lord for many years to come.
and I shall dwell. Well, so another way of saying that is that once I have that warmth and safety of not just physical, but also emotional, then I can allow myself to sit in the house of the Lord, or then I will feel like I'm in the house of the Lord. So you could interpret it two ways, but yes, not disagreeing. Yeah. Although you could also say that I'll only sit in the house of the Lord, I'll only believe in you if I have tov v'chesed. So that doesn't feel so, right? That may not be the way. So let's get there. We're not there yet. Any other thoughts of where you see in the Mizmor belongingness and love needs being met? Or the next level? No, that's the next level. Okay. Yeah. Anybody else see relationships with others, with God or with others in here?
Well, fear no harm when you
So
walk.
that's fear no harm is back to safety. That's a lower level. You need to feel safe in order to create relationships. If you're in fear of your life or in fear of something else, if you're living in fear, it's very hard, unless you had a relationship from before, you're not going to create new relationships. I mean, there's always exceptions, but this is the basic. Somebody who's on the run, they're not going to stop to say, have a cup of coffee with somebody and get to know them if they're worried for their own personal safety. I think that's what Maslow is saying. Yeah, Ruby.
Perhaps because you have to have love of people, love of others, even before you can have love of God.
Oh, nice. Say more, please.
Well, that's like the step towards love of God. Just to jump to say I'm going to have love of God.
Yeah.
Without having these intermediate steps that bring you there.
What do people think about that? Ruby is saying that you don't jump from just feeling safe, loving God, that you need the relationship with people first, that would be a bridge, a stepping stone, so to speak. Any thoughts about that? Does that resonate with people? I love all these thoughts because next time we say it or sing it or recite it, they're all going to run through my head. And they all could be a little different. They all could resonate at different times. That's why we're learning it, so that when we hear it or when we say it, it'll be meaningful to us. So, I think different people are different, but it just feels so basic that you need the relationship with other people. It's just like impossible to live in this world and be alone. You know, even babies, are people familiar with that? Babies who are
Yes.
left alone and not, right, before they even know how to speak or connect, they actually, they could even die of loneliness, and they certainly don't know how to connect with
Yeah.
people. They
Yeah.
need to be stroked, they need to be held,
Yeah.
they need to feel connection from when they're born. This
From
is
when they're
something that,
born.
from
They're
when they're,
programmed, right? They're programmed that way to
Yeah.
have to see an emotional response from
well,
their
that, but even before that, Carol, even before they, yes, they did these, I saw this little short clip of a mom who was in the front seat driving, I think, or she was, yeah, I think she was driving, or she stopped, and her baby was in the back seat, and or something, or she was sitting with her baby. I don't remember. Anyway, the baby was trying to get her attention, and if she responded, then the baby continued to smile. And but whenever
Right.
when she looked away and didn't respond at all, and didn't create, the baby slowly, even just in one short scene, the
Yes,
baby
starts
got
getting
more and more and started getting agitated and sad and upset and crying. And as soon as she turned her face to the baby and, face lit up with a smile and eye contact, that made a big difference.
Right,
Yes. So
right.
that seems very basic. So that's an interesting idea, because now let's go higher in the pyramid. Esteem needs prestige and feelings of accomplishment. So that's, according to Maslow, that's after you have relationship. I mean, feelings of accomplishment and self-actualization is not going to happen on your own in a void, because what are you feeling accomplished about? I think. And he called it esteem, and then self-actualization, achieving one's full potential, including creative activities. All those are only going to happen when you have everything else before. So I don't know if I can see creative activities here, but maybe that's v'shavti b'veit Hashem la'orech yamim. Maybe it's exactly what Ruby was saying. First, you need the connection with people and create a relationship, and maybe create like a skill, a vocation, or things that you do. And then I'll feel content that I'm in God's house because I have actualized my potential. That's how it speaks to me. Anybody else have another thought?
No, I like that. And you anoint my head with oil. It assumes that he's achieved something, right?
Why say more? Because that's
To
like
anoint
crowning.
kings, right, crowning.
It's like a king.
Exactly. Yep.
Right, and my drink is abundant. Not only do I have my needs to physically, but I have a lot. I have more than I need.
Nice.
I'm
Overflowing.
overflowing.
And that could also be, it could be that my physical needs are not overflowing. It could be I don't have a huge amount of money or whatever, but I have enough. And therefore my contentment is overflowing. How wonderful. We say, Ezu ashir hasamech b'chelko. Who is wealthy? One who is content with their lot. And your lot might not be that you can go first class, but, maybe you can do something else, kind of thing, right? Yeah.
One more.
Judy and then Lance. Yeah.
Just I'm taking poetic license on the word la'orech yamin, because orech has in it or shalcha. That's, as I said, so meaning Hashem's light shall be with you for the length of days.
Wow. That's nice. Okay. Orech. Okay. Yeah. Aleph Resh. I guess you could do that. Nice. Lance, you want to say something? Then I want to say one word. Yeah.
Okay. We make the assumption that the mother and the baby are two individual people. However, I think psychologically, the baby and the mother are intertwined. So
Wait,
there really
you're
is no
insulting
difference.
all the fathers.
Yes, I am. But after the baby grows, the baby eventually separates from the mother. In other words, D.W. Winnicott says that the perfect mother is the one who continues to hold the baby, the child, the adult, forcibly with the mother. However, the good enough mother is someone who can release the child and release the
Got to release them.
release the child and release the adult to go on their way and to be curious and do things.
Yep.
If the mother has accelerated maturity, if the mother forces the child to grow up faster than the child should, that
Yeah.
creates all kinds of problems.
All right, so okay, yep, all that is true. That's great. I don't think we really so much have the allegory of the mother here, but you can always compare God to a parent. The last word I want to spend time on, I mean, there's so much more we could say, but I feel like we've spent a lot of time, is ach. And that is in the last verse. Ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni. So what does ach mean? Not ach with the chet, that means brother. This is ach with the chaf sofit. Only, yep.
How?
What'd you say?
Does it mean like ich, like how?
No.
How?
No, no, I don't think so. No, ech and ach, I mean, there may be some,
Does
I don't
mean,
think so.
it doesn't mean
Ach
but,
could also mean but
but.
or only. Ach can be, it's like switching. Ach switches the direction. Phyllis, do you want to say something?
I was gonna just go with the idea what you were asking before about goodness being that at this point now a person would be trying to actualize themselves and do things beyond just what people do to them or for them, but what they can do for others. And so that would imply that with the goodness that they would not just be receiving goodness from God, but they would be doing goodness.
You know what? I just got goosebumps because that goes with kosir vaya. My cup overflows. When you're filled with that, that can overflow to other people. Wow, that's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Ach is an unusual word. It's not common to kind of stick it in. And I just wonder if it's giving some sort of a pause. I know I had that in here, somebody explained it, but I just wanted to point it out to people. First of all, the part that I don't so much agree with, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this here, but when I was sitting Shiva and people would say to me, I mean, I've sat Shiva 3 times, so this is my first time that I sat Shiva for my father, and people say, may you only know Simcha, may you not know any more Tsa'ar. And that did not resonate with me. I was 36. My father had sadly, he was 60, and he unexpectedly died of deep vein thrombosis getting off an airplane. And I didn't make sense to me that somebody would say you shouldn't know more tsar. Like, of course we're all going to have tsar. Does anybody here not have any sorrow in their life? I don't think anybody here, almost at any point in time. But so that's where ach tov v'chesed. So I just want to finish that somebody said to me, you should know more simcha than tsar. You should know more joy than sadness. And that really resonated, and that's what I wish for other people. You should know more joy than sadness, because it's impossible to have a life without sadness. But I wonder, ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni, it's interesting, it runs after me. Maybe what's running after me is to, even in spite of the tsar that we're obviously all going to feel, in fact, if we talk about funerals, we're feeling it right now at the funeral, but it's like they're chasing after me. Don't forget about us. Like, try to look at the world as good. Try to see the good. I'm imagining these little stick figures of Tov and Chesed running after me, chasing after me, saying, don't fall into that chasm. Chasm? Don't fall into that chasm of sadness, and don't let it pull you down. We're always here running after. We're right behind you. It's almost like they're the shadow, right? They're the shadow running after the person. That's how I'm imagining it. So my whole life, may I never forget that goodness is running after me, tov v'chesed. And I think that's more realistic than we always kind of, somebody calls rainbows and puppy dogs, or unicorns. Like, that's just not real life. But this beautiful idea, I love it. Like, oh, just look around. They're right behind you. They're running after you, the tov v'chesed. They're there with you. Don't forget about them. Don't leave them behind. Keep them with you, tight next to you. So that's what I want to leave us with. I think we spoke
I think-
so many gorgeous things. Yeah, Felice, you want to add? And then I'm going to
just,
sing and we're going to
just for a
close.
second. Yeah, it's showing empathy, I think. You feel like
Empathy,
you're not
yeah.
alone.
Who's
You're
not alone?
in this.
What's showing it? Oh, tov v'chesed? Oh, that's
Yes.
nice. That's nice. Okay. By the way, just going back to what you said about Moshe. So some people do say that because Moshe passed away on Shabbat afternoon, and that Moshe is our faithful shepherd. That would be the reason. So very nice, because he's our, iconic ultimate shepherd. I'm just going to sing the rest of it. Tihi shanta b'shem en roshi, Tishanta Bashemen Roshi. Dishanta Bashemen Roshi. Kosirevaya. Achtov v'chesed yirtefuni kol yemei chayai ושבתי בבית השם ושבתי בבית השם לאורך ימים. Thank you for joining me. This was beautiful learning. I feel like I know this psalm so much better than when we started 3 ago. I would like votes for our next psalm. That is the only thing you're allowed to say now. Just kidding. Whatever I vote, we did 121, we did 130, and we did 23. Do we have request? I am happy to take requests.
I'd like to learn about Borchi Nafshi, what we say on Kodesh.
So Rosh Chodesh, it's very long.
Right,
It would
and-
take us a while. So that's one. It's very long. I might wait on that, only because we don't have, I'm not sure how many classes we have till the end of June. I'm not 100% sure, because next week I might not be able to, and I have I don't know, I have to look at when I'm available. I might have enough. Keep another question. That's very appropriate for today, Judy, because we
Right.
said it today, of course, for
Right.
Rosh Chodesh. Do other people want that one, or are people not so familiar with it? It has a lot of
150.
animals and frolicking. It's kind of beautiful. Yeah.
A
150.
short one would be
150. Oh, 150. Yeah, that's really nice.
another
Yeah.
one. Mizmor Latoda, number 100.
Beautiful. So 100, 150. I think we're going to wait on Baruch Nafshi for next year when we have more time. I am continuing it next year. Once we'll take a break for the summer. So 100 or 150 works for people?
Thank you. Yes.
Does that work? Yes. Thank you. Just watch the bulletin on because it is possible next week I might have something on a Wednesday, actually a wedding to go to during the day. I don't know what time it is. Yes, somebody congregants, a second marriage for both of them. So it's possible. So I'm gonna check on that. And if so, depending on timing, I might be able to move our class a little earlier. I know not everybody would come, but yeah, maybe I'll end up doing it a little earlier. So I'm going to do either 150 or 100. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, and Chag Sameach to everybody.
Chag Sameach.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Chag
Thank you.
Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.